Hey guys, Curtis, ThatTurboDakota. We are back again in the shop wiring the Dakota RT for a new Holley Dominator ECU. So in this episode, what we have to do is we're going to start to build our wire harness from the firewall at our bulkhead connectors out to the motor and make our crimps for our different terminals and connectors. If you are new to the channel, if you want just a quick recap, behind me, and we'll switch around, is my 2000 Dodge Dakota RT. It is a single cab short bed. It is a bright white. It is turbocharged. Factory 5.9 short block. When I say factory, I mean untouched pistons, crank rods, everything stock in OEM. It does have aftermarket heads on it, intake manifold, throttle body, camshafting, and all the valve training necessary to go along with that. It has been a 1065 at 127. I'm hoping to go a little bit faster. You know, we'll see what happens. But I just want to do a recap if you're new to the channel. So again, today, more crimping, more connecting. I'm gonna grab my stuff. I'm gonna take it inside for now, and we'll go ahead and populate our bulkhead terminals. Then I'll have to bring it back in. We'll lay it in the truck. We'll cut it to length. Again, then start crimping and cutting again. You know. So enjoy. Okay, all my wires are crimped up. We're getting ready to insert them in the back of the back shell for the connector. I did bring my wiring diagram just to make sure I'm on track. I always kind of revert back to it. I know I talked about this one last time, but I just took basically a PDF file, a Holley universal coil and plug set up, had it blend up and laminated so I could write on it with a dry eraser marker. So if you're curious, the way it came out, pretty nice. You can see it very, very well. Nice and clear. You can see all my chicken scratch all over it. So it's pretty cool. I got Bella, my helper, checking things out. So we don't need this anymore. I can put this stuff back in my little box. I got my notepad out because I have to keep track of where every single wire goes on this thing. Then we'll take my little insert tool, populate it real quick, and that'll be done for this one. And go back and get the other one and get the bulk of the wiring. You know, same thing, cut, strip, crimp them together, populate, notate it down, make sure we're staying on track. So, let me get after it. So just real quick, so what I'm going to do is on here, if you guys can see that, let me see if I can get you a better angle real quick, bear with me. There you go. So injector A is a gray wire, it is a 20 gauge wire, okay? So you guys got that. Injector A, so let me reposition my camera. So there's our gray wire right there. So we're going to use our little insert tool. Let's see here, okay. So we'll take the wire, lay it in the widest part of the tooling, and push it through like so, and it snaps in like that. Then you pull it back against the collar on the inside like that. And then we're going to take a look at our connector at the very top, if you guys can see that. A is right here. I'm going to take this thing right here and very gently insert it in, and it should snap. Again, I'm just kind of wiggling as I go. You see it come through the other side. You can see the big one. It's kind of hard because it's dark, but you can believe me when I say it. It's in there. And pull it back out, and it should, yep, there it is. So it clicked in. So there's A, and then so on and so forth until we get all 8 of them in there. This is my first time using this crimper and these tooling. And as easy it is, I'm still learning as I go. And what I just noticed, and I doubt the camera is going to pick it up, but on, this little tool has two different halves, and printed on the plastic says insert and extraction. And what I learned really quickly, just a couple seconds ago with the camera off, is the way the end of this thing hits on the connector. So this one actually goes all the way up to the collar to help the lock release on the white side, and the red side actually hits where the wire meets the connector. That way when you insert it, you can hear it click in, and then you just pull the insertion tool out and you don't have to fight it. So just something to note. So anyway, I'll show you guys real quick. So let's see, look at my diagram. Injector C. So injector C is burgundy. So there's our burgundy wire and our insert tool. So again, same thing as last time, is I lay it in the widest part and kind of pull it through. It is tight, but it's made to be that way. So pull it through like that, and you pull it down and see how it hits where the wire hits the back of the connector rather than hitting up here where the collar is. And we'll turn our connector over. On back, we'll go to the C terminal, which is right there, the next one in line. Again, and very gently, I'm holding it up here just in case. Insert that thing in there like that, very gently. Get it past the seal. I kind of wiggle it, and then once it goes down in there, you can actually hear it click. You probably won't be able to pick it up. Put it right there. I can feel it engage, and then pull the insertion tool out. All the way, very gently, just like that. And then that thing, if you pull on it like this, it's locked in. So, just something to note. Figure I'm learning, and you guys can learn with me. Okay, so, and just like that, we've got all our wires inserted into our connector. As I went, I matched the color on the print to the color here in the letter. So again, it starts at A and works our way around. And if you look at the diagram, injector A lines up with pin A and so forth. Now, the only other thing this thing's going to get in the future is going to be the wires for the coil. It's going to get one more 12 volt. So this is the 12 volt for the injectors. These are the triggers, right? So it'll get one more 12 volt red for the coil packs in the future, and then it'll get a 12 volt 12 gauge wire, red one, right? And then it's going to get a 12 gauge black wire, and that is for the injector ground for the Hemi, and that'll come from the injector driver modules, pass through here, and then go to the back of the cylinder head. So, looking pretty good. Next up is I'm going to run back out to the garage. I'm going to have to grab the other smaller connector, grab all the wiring for that, and we'll be back to stripping wire and crimping on the little contacts so we can get ready to put the next one together. Okay, so just ran to the garage, grabbed all the wires for the smaller shell size connector, which is right over here. I'm going to start with the wideband and my crank and cam, because they're the bigger insulated stuff. And same old dance, guys. Strip it back, crimp it up, and repeat. Here we go. Okay, so just finished up with the wideband and the cam and crank. You will notice I didn't crimp these two. For cam and crank, the two purples are actually the signal wire, the black's a sensor ground, and then the red is some kind of voltage depending on what vehicle you're wiring. But the red and the sensor ground, they actually tie back together at the main harness to some other wires, so there's no point in making double crimps, at least right now, because we're just running off the 360, not the Hemi. In the future, that might have to change, because the cam sensor and the crank sensor both need their own set of sensor ground and power. But for right now, I'll just take a little piece of heat tube, block these two off, and then we'll be good to go. So working on that, I'm going to start consulting my wiring diagram, going through the rest of the wires one by one, getting them crimped and ready to rock to insert into this thing. If you're curious what I'm doing, I know I mentioned before all the short purple marks are going into the smaller connector. So what I'm going to do is I'm just pulling them apart in clusters. So I'm matching the colors up on our print and then pulling those particular wires out and then crimping them first. So I was going to start out with my inputs. Right, so my inputs on here are, let's see, input 1 and 3. So I got a white and a blue and a white and a black, and then input 2 is a white and a red. The camera will focus, there it goes. So I went ahead and pulled those 3 out right there. So I'll go ahead and crimp those and we'll set them off to the side, and then we'll move on to the next couple. Okay, we're rocking and rolling. I'll show you what I did for the last one, how I recorded it. Basically, put the connector pin where it's at, and then transfer that over to the description of the wire, the color of the wire, the gauge, and then in the Holley what pins it in. So basically it's going to do the same thing for this smaller connector on the table. I've already kind of started writing it down. So all the uppercase pins, you flip to the next page, is the lowercase. And then I have a little sheet to go off of just to make sure I'm seeing it right on the connector, because the print is kind of small. But I'm good, so just staying organized and doing a thing. So it's time to populate that guy. Okay, wideband is done. A little bit of a challenge. It's pretty tight, but I wanted to work from the center outside, and again, I want to get my big and bulky wires in the center. So wideband's done. Next thing I'm going to do is the cam and crank. All right, here it is. Everything's all populated up, ready to go. So it's ready to go back on the truck and then start cutting our lengths. I still have to put the end cap on that nut that so the heat shrink has something to grab onto, and I got to put the heat shrink boot over it. But so far so good, you know, just a little bit of crimp solder. Okay, we're all finished up. I got all the wires populated. I got everything written down right here in my book. Only thing I'm going to do is go down this line and write what pin in the ECU it is. I'll just match it up with my wiring diagram over here. Next step is we take this thing out of the truck, and we plug it in, and we start trimming our lengths back. Let's do it. Okay, so back in the garage, got the bigger connector hooked up, and what this is all 8 of our injector trigger wires plus the 12 volt power. So that's the 12 gauge there. So what I have to do is I have to make a splice. I have to break this 12 gauge down 8 different ways. So I'm going to strip it off. I've got some 18 gauge TXL over here. I don't know if you can see it from here. It's kind of hard to see with the camera, but right there. So we're going to measure it out, cut it, strip it, and then crimp it all together. And then we'll cover it up with Raychem SCL, which is like I think it's like a double wall adhesive line. It's some really stout stuff. And then that'll help with our strain relief too, where that splice is. Okay, real quick. So started laying out the injector harness, pulled out my 18 gauge TXL, only got 10 feet of it, and was really quick to realize that I didn't have enough to reach all 8 injectors. So I kind of stopped there because, again, I don't want to rush it. So I just ordered a little bit. I think I need maybe like 6 feet more, roughly. So I went ahead and plugged in the smaller connector. I just cut my wideband to length, and that's basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to, figure out what length I need on each one. So next, I always start with the bulky one. So next I'm going to do my cam crank, which there is a connector for that goes to this distributor back here. So they're going to be kind of short too. So I go ahead and cut those. I'm not really going to do any crimping on the truck just because it's a pain. I'm going to take everything and do it on the bench so to make it way easier. So I'm going to cut those, and then we'll just go through the rest of the harness little by little, and one wire at a time or whatever, cut it and get it ready to be crimped. Okay, everything's trimmed length. So next thing we do, reach down in here, release this thing. It's just a quarter turn. Check it out, like that. That's it. That's why I like those things. That is so easy to do. So I got it out. Now it's time to crimp some ends on it. I am waiting for some loom as well, so I can loom it. I didn't get split loom for this. I just got loom that you actually, it's like a one-shot deal, so you gotta run it through the center before you put it together. But so far so good, guys. Making some serious progress. I know the wiring part's not too fun to watch, but if you do decide to take this one, hopefully it gives you a good idea on what it's going to take to get the job done. So I'm going to swap some tools around, clean some stuff up, and then it'll be time to start crimping ends on. Okay, both my splices are done. Sensor ground right here, 5-volt right here. I need to get some different size SCL shrink tube, as it's just not big enough to fit over the splices. So that's done. The loom will be here today, so I'm kind of at a stopping point until I get that 18 gauge red for TXL and some more SCL heat shrink for over here. So I'm going to end the video off here. I'll probably work on getting the harness loomed inside. Now that I know my pin placement on my connector, I can actually kind of finalize that for the most part. I still got a bunch of loose wires to hook up. But again, done for now. Thanks for watching. You know, we're making it a little bit better day by day. It's getting better. It feels like it's taking forever, because it is. But, you know, it's actually starting to look like a wiring harness somewhat right now. Thanks. See ya.